From Jurassic Park. Tim! Tim! Remember he tried to revive the kid when he got shocked off of the...
You see the new Jurassic coming out in the summer?
No.
It's a new... You didn't see it on the Super Bowl ads?
I think I did see
commercial
that.
for the movies. You've got Jurassic Park coming out, the new Star Wars, the new Mission Impossible.
I fast forward past all the commercials this time.
You did?
I did.
The best one was the...
I actually literally didn't even watch any of the Super Bowl.
The best one was the
Watched
Dirty
it
Dancing with...
You thought that was the best? Actually, I saw it on the
that was
news.
the best commercial. Yeah.
That was
that was
so
funny
bad.
as heck. That
That was bad.
So
Who was in
bad,
it? What was it a commercial for?
It was the football players.
Was it Eli Manning?
It was Eli Manning and his receiver. What's his name? At the end of it, the receiver jumps up and Eli Manning catches him,
like
holds
in
him
Dirty
up to like
Dancing.
Dirty Dancing.
Well, what were they advertising for? Nothing?
I have no clue, dude.
I don't remember what it was.
For dancing shoes?
It's so effective that they remember it, but they don't know what it was about.
Cheetos?
It was an NFL commercial, obviously.
That was
Yeah,
for the
it was an
NFL.
NFL commercial.
Why would you have an NFL commercial during the middle of the damn Super
It's
Bowl?
about their dancing celebration, maybe?
Huh.
And the fact that the NFL doesn't allow them, so they're doing it in a commercial.
What a waste.
I think that was actually the first time I've watched a football game from start to finish.
I guess they couldn't
It was a good
sell
game.
all the commercial spots and they
It was a
decided
good game to
put that in
watch
there,
from beginning to end.
right? They couldn't sell all the Super Bowl spots, so they...
Tim, are you joining
Let's
us?
make one for ourselves. We got an opening.
Well, they turned down the patriotic one, right? Because it was an ad about veterans essentially voicing against
Okay.
the kneeling down and all that.
12-12.
Wow,
Are you telling me to be
echo.
quiet?
12-12.
And Tim's still not here. Tim!
All right, folks, let's get this show started.
Tim will be here momentarily, then we can get started.
All right.
He's having technical difficulties.
How's everybody doing? Good?
His cough's almost gone. I see Tim still has his cough.
Yeah, very little. Still
Still the
hanging
same.
around.
Very little, but very loud.
Very little but very loud.
Oh,
There you
boy.
go.
Not so mental.
All right, so welcome back to 1212. A couple of housekeeping things. So if you're watching live, make sure you type an L as a comment. Let us know that you're watching it live. If you catch this later on and it's recorded, type an R for recorded. With that, a lot of cool things are happening this week at the club, right? A lot of exciting stuff. We have training coming up. We have MMMs. We have a lot of things going on. But today, we're here because we want to talk about creative acquisitions.
Right.
And what that looks like. And I think really what it looks like in,
What?
you all right?
John's giving me crap.
Yeah. I'll toast to that.
Nicely done.
So anyways, creative acquisitions and the market that we're in, right? We're slightly out of the huge number of pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, that type of thing. But that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities out there still in that market. So don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of foreclosures and pre-foreclosures that are going on. But there's also the need to become creative in how we acquire properties versus the standard, I'm gonna go buy this and make an offer. If they accept it, great. If they don't, I move on to the next one. There's opportunity out there to be had where we can make decent profits, right? And we'll give you guys some examples of what we've done on the creative side of things. But when we talk about creative acquisitions, we could talk about a huge number of things, right? That's just a lot of different ways of approaching things. And rather than do that, we want to focus on very simple things first. And then as you guys continue to tune in, we'll talk a little bit more about the different creative acquisitions, like subject tos and so forth, right? Maybe lease options and what have you. So there's different things that we can talk about. Today though, so we had, I kind of had a game plan.
Yep.
Right?
What?
And then John showed up.
Oh, hi, John.
And that game plan kind of got,
John thinks too much.
John, he does overthink.
If that's not
That should
the
be
pop
good.
calling that.
Can you hear me, Kevin, in the back?
I'll translate what he said. If that's not the overthinker calling the overthinker an overthinker. I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, so things changed a little bit based on a conversation that John was having with Tim and I about a property that he went to this morning.
Yep.
And took a look at. So we'll ease into that, but first off, I'm pretty sure that we've all been involved in some type of creative acquisition, right?
Yeah.
So we can definitely talk to the different strategies that exist within that. The goal here though today is going to be, let's talk about, you made a great point earlier of everybody wants to get creative and create the opportunity, but you can't get creative if there isn't one very important piece of the puzzle, right? So I found this house, and it makes sense. The numbers look good, but, right? So I'll let you touch on what we were talking about. That piece of the
Always
puzzle,
say
right?
and.
That's usually missing.
Yeah, I usually say and.
And?
Yeah,
Instead of but?
Yeah.
All right, we can go with and.
And you just reminded me of something. Literally this morning, I get a text message from somebody. He sends me a picture of this house. Guy's an Uber driver, and he was an Uber driver for me a couple weeks ago. And I was talking to him and told him, if you find any vacant properties or anything like that, shoot them over to me. So he texted me over. Here's a property that might be in your best interest or of interest to you. And I'm like, okay, well, is it vacant? Well, I'm not sure. It was between calls.
All right.
It was between routes, but I think I heard noise from, the backyard. So I guess my point is that we need a homeowner, right? I mean, at the end of the day, just because a house looks like it's bad or something like that, like, great, that would be an opportunity to do all kinds of creative acquisitions we could do with that house. But if we don't have somebody to sell us the house, we can't do anything.
We
So I
can't
guess
just
that's
buy it without any.
right. We can't just buy it without a seller.
So what you're saying is you need a willing participant.
Right. I need somebody who understands and is open to the creative strategies. And I have to be able to educate the homeowner as well. Most of the time. A lot of times the homeowner is not going to understand what lease option is or subject to or all these other strategies that we as investors use, and we toss these words around like nothing, right? Because we understand it, but a lot of times the homeowner doesn't know that stuff.
And even folks just getting started
Right.
in this business, right, don't get that you still need a willing participant. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle that's missing most often, right, is because I've had them show up kind of the same way, and they're like, yeah, they're ready to sell. Then you talk to the homeowner and not so much, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, the words I'm ready to sell don't even come out of their mouths at all. It's like, I want to stay here. So,
Right.
which is fine, right? What are these guys doing?
I don't know.
Taking selfies.
So off shot here, these guys are
Bromance.
taking selfies with us in the background. That's kind of cool. And by the way, so that's Kevin and Adam. So today Adam is going to be fielding questions. So if you have questions, and here's what I'd like for everybody to do, right? I get that you guys will have some questions that come to mind. That's fine, but we're really looking for topic-specific questions. So if you want to grab us later on and post a question that's off topic, great. But let's keep the focus if you guys could. So, okay, so talk a little bit, Frank, about willing participants.
Well, the first thing when I'm talking to a seller is that's the first thing I actually bring up always is if they're open to something creative. Either them carrying a note, seller financing, if they don't mind keeping the mortgage in place, that's going to reduce my money costs, and originating a new loan, hard money or private money, that's my first thing, look at the numbers. And it always works better to do a subject to almost every time, unless, of course, we don't have a willing participant. If they just want to get cashed out and be done with it, then we go to option 2, which is, of course, the all cash offer.
Right.
Yeah. So John, today you had the opportunity to go walk a house.
Yep.
And so share a little bit about that, because we were going to share a property that Tim and I just finished and closed, right? Acquisition side?
It was subject to.
Yeah, acquiring it. Okay, cool. So we'll talk about that one. So we have a lot of material then.
Actually, we just acquired one last weekend.
Yep, just
acquired one.
just signed one. So
Yep.
a lot of activity happening. So, but let's talk about the one, because
Yeah.
it developed into an interesting conversation. So let's go with what you came up with this morning.
So Joe hit me up last night and said, hey, I've got a homeowner that he's been working with for a couple of weeks. Homeowner's in default right now. It's in the pre-foreclosure stage. Has a projected sale date about the middle of February. So he hasn't received the notice of trustee sale, although he probably should have done, but he hasn't yet. He's not working with the bank. So I'm not sure what's holding up that sale date being kind of being set. But the bottom line is the homeowner is looking to relocate. He wants to get out of California, he's sick of the taxes, wants to move to Idaho, Montana, go start a new life. He's recently retired, his wife's still working, but they have equity within the house. They don't have time to go list it with an agent. They can't really go list it with an agent because there's some challenges within the house that would stop you from having open houses, and the pictures probably won't look so good for the MLS. And pretty much this house is in great condition. It needs paint, carpet, some appliances, possibly some upgrade in the bathroom areas, particularly the toilets. The rest of the bathrooms look good. The kitchen cabinets look great. The tile in the tiled area looks great. Just needs a good clean. Needs carpet throughout, but there's mountains and mountains of trash. And I mean literally trash. It means, not just junk, but just bags and bags of trash. So all over the house, it's, the house is just a little bit messy.
That's not what you said earlier. You didn't say.
I'm being politically correct, but that one is a little bit messy. No, it's a lot messy. It's
a lot of it.
But if you can see past the mess, then the house is in great condition. They're in a situation where they have all this stuff going on. It's kind of got out of control, and really it needs a big dumpster outside. A good cleanup, and this house could sell for a good value. It's in a nice community, a nice kind of private community, and it has a lot of potential.
Nice.
Gotcha.
So once you, we were in the middle of a conversation that I cut off when you guys were kind of getting into the whole strategizing, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, well, as soon as I hear about a homeowner in that situation, my initial thought is, like Frank was mentioning, right, is the homeowner willing to carry financing? So that's obviously my first question to you, John. I mean, is the homeowner willing and open to do something creative, or have you reached that conversation yet?
Yeah, so the homeowner, he's pretty educated. He brought it to the conversation to say, I'm willing to allow you to keep my existing mortgage in place. We talked about timeline because I know they're looking to relocate. Could we keep this mortgage in place for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years? What does that look like? And he said, we're paying cash for when we move to Idaho, Montana. So for me, you can keep the mortgage in place for as long as you need it.
Okay. So my next question is, does he have the cash that he wants to use to buy this mobile home in Montana, or is he expecting us to give him the cash to pay?
A bit of both, I think. By the sounds of it, it's a bit of both. I don't think they have too much in the way of savings because they're $17,000 in default right now. They got behind, but just haven't, they kind of just left it alone. They were not really forthcoming as to what happened exactly and why they haven't really attacked it, other than they've left it expecting that they can just sell the house and then move. So they are looking for some cash from it. They do have potential equity in the property. So kind of a bit of both.
Okay. Do we know how much cash they need?
Again, he's been a little coy with those numbers. But Joe, he's had some other investors talking to them. Joe thinks the guy's probably around, between $40,000 and $50,000 is what he's looking for.
Okay. And do we know yet if he's expecting the $40,000 to $50,000 today as we close, or is he willing to carry that as well?
Well, a couple of things he's looking for. One is they're not ready to move right this second. He's asked if there would be an option if we were to purchase the house, keep the mortgage in place, whether he could have potentially 2 months to get all his ducks in order to be able to move. So he's looking to stay in the house for 2 months. He will need some money to move. They're not looking to go straight into that new house that they're looking for. They're effectively looking to buy a mobile home. But right now they're looking to potentially rent for the first 6 months, 12 months until they get the stuff in order up in wherever they relocate to. So they need some money to move, but not necessarily all the money.
Okay. And that doesn't necessarily have to be today. They want to stay in the house for about 2 months.
You want to stay in the house for about 2 months? 2 months.
Okay. Any thoughts, guys?
So I heard the other part of the numbers, right, of the amount of equity and all that. And so them being at 40, 50 grand, right, obviously that's concern because that's probably not there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a conversation that has to be had and negotiations that need to take place. But I think you guys are probably in a good spot though to be able to at least have the conversation and walk them down the path. And you said that he seems to be educated because he suggested, hey, let's look at a subject too, right, essentially.
He's educated about some of the process. Here's my initial challenge, having had a quick look at it last night. The comps in the area are mainly single-story properties. His is a 2-story property. So they're all 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom out there, or 2.5 baths. But so the square footage is very similar to the other homes that are single-story versus the second-story. So to some people there is an appeal. I mean, I like 2-story houses. Some people only like single-story houses. So every comp that I've found so far, roughly in about the 260 to 280 range, is a single-story house. I can't find a comp yet that's a 2-story.
Interesting.
So ARV, let's say, between 260 to 280, if it was single-story, I'll go, we need to check those numbers. He owes right now 130, and he's 17,000 in default. So
17,000.
17. No,
I
17.
thought you said
70.
70.
No,
I was like,
no, 17.
well, that doesn't work.
No,
Sounds like 70, right?
I thought he said 70 the first time.
Yeah, so
17.
17.
Well, that's why you walked away the first time.
So
Which is-
150.
So call it 150. Yeah.
And it's worth about 260.
Between 260 and 280, there's one comp that sold for 286. There's another one that sold a little bit less. They kind of overdid it on the rehab.
So I like the numbers that you guys just threw out, right? So 150, 160, 260, 270. Now, the untrained person would say, dude, that's over $100,000 spread,
Yep.
right? Not so true. So there's still repair costs that have to be considered.
Yep.
Potentially money costs unless somebody here is liquid enough to be able to put it in and not charge the points and interest on the money. And then there's selling costs and all that. So there's a lot more that needs to be deducted from that potential $100,000 spread
Yep.
that most people will miss, right? You had an article where somebody,
Oh, yeah.
right, that they're going to court over this and it's being published as, look at this huge spread. Well, no, there was repairs. There was a lot of money that went into it. So that spread automatically goes down. So anyhow, we're not talking $110,000, $120,000 spread. We're probably talking more like a $70,000 spread.
Yeah, it's
More or less.
minor repairs needed. Minor repairs needed. It's still a 1,800 square foot house, so it still needs revamping a little bit. The majority, or should I say, the more pricier items like putting in a new kitchen, I don't believe that's required. Counters look great, cabinets look great, just need a good clean. So I think, if we could get in there for around about 30,000, 25, 30,000, I think that would be a great number. Outside looks good, doesn't need repainting. Some eaves need repainting potentially, but apart from that, landscaping looks fairly good, fairly decent. Just needs a good cut on the grass.
So the cool thing right now, right, is for you guys out there watching this is exactly the conversations that happen on a regular basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
When an opportunity shows up, we go back and forth, and the objective becomes, can we punch enough holes in this to say it's not a deal, right?
Right.
Can we identify every possible issue or challenge that'll come up to make sure that we can, if we can disqualify this as a good lead, and then we move on.
Yep.
It doesn't sound like we're disqualifying it at all at this point, right? That I don't know, Frank. Do you see anything that would say probably walk away from this?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I'd want to investigate more.
Yeah.
Pick the guy's brain. I'd want to get an offer to him as soon as possible.
Right.
Give him a couple of different.
Yeah,
options.
because the thing that I heard you say, John, is that there's possibility or a strong possibility that other people are in his ear already. So
We're meeting Thursday at 5 o'clock. So I've got between today and Thursday at 5 o'clock to get the numbers together, the offers written up. He's open to all different offers. He's open to the cash out offer of close, move on, the cash out offer with keeping the mortgage in place, the potential for an equity split partnership with the homeowner, ride it out until we've sold it at the end of the, at the end of the rehab, is open to every possible option.
Is he open to going out to dinner to discuss these options?
He actually suggested, let's meet in a restaurant on
Perfect.
Thursday.
Best way to do it.
Why not today?
They have 4 kids. They've got some challenges that they've got to solve today, and then tomorrow his wife's off work today, but she's back at work tomorrow, and she works some crazy hours there. So we were able to nail it down to Thursday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, you might be having every investor within 10 miles take him out to dinner every night.
Right?
Is that a possibility?
The possibility definitely
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for communication with the creative side of things. I mean, based on the numbers, I don't see him getting 40 to 50 grand unless we can get really, really creative. Because basically what, Oscar took us down to about 70 with closing costs and realtor fees and things like that. And then as far as room in the deal, and then you just took 25 to 30 of that in repairing it. So there's only $40,000 there for anybody to put in their pocket, 40 to 50 maybe. And of course we have to be able to profit as well.
We got to get a return on our investment, right?
Right, so we have to be able to profit a little bit as well. So I don't know what that number looks like for him, but I think that if we can go in there and make him a creative offer, partner with him, come in, catch things up, allow him to stay in the property for the 2 months that he needs, and then as soon as he's out, he gets another lump sum of money to actually move forward and vacate the property, and then we can get started. And then we could probably have that property back on the market by, middle of April, May.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd
Which
want
is
to
like
find out a
perfect
little bit
timing.
more about why he needs exactly 2 months. What
Right.
is that? See if we can incentivize him to make it a little bit
Kids,
quicker.
what are the ages of the kids?
Teenagers and one younger, 9-year-old is the youngest.
So it could be school.
So it could be school.
Yeah.
Yeah. They actually, the house is over in Hammett, and
They'll be done in May, June.
the kids in school in Marietta, so they travel the distance to put the kid into a different school district, and
I get it.
kids has after school programs and everything, so
Yeah, so it could be, there's a little bit more personal information that we would want to get. I mean, I think that's one of the key things about getting creative is you really have to get deep into the homeowner and find out like really what they need.
yeah.
Because if you can find out what they really, really need, then you can provide that for them and get literally as creative as you need to be to make deals happen.
Well, Melina always talks about that specifically to say you've got to find out what that need is. Clearly, right now, time is an issue for them. They've got potentially, the NTS could turn up any day. It could be there this afternoon for all we know. And then they're set on that 21, 30-day time limit for the sale day. They don't have the ability to catch it up right now. They need time to organise. They're literally relocating. They haven't decided if it's Idaho, Montana. They just know they want to get out of California and go to where it's cheaper. So, although they've got these ideas, I think there's still a lot of planning that they've got to put in place to make that move happen. As I say, they've got a lot of stuff to solve within the house to start packing and get out.
Yeah.
So time, that's a big issue.
Yeah, and you guys, when you meet with them Thursday, I don't know if you've agreed to do that, but definitely would just put together a few different options for them as far as the numbers, like cash offer, what that looks like, and then a subject to offer, maybe whatever kind of financing you can put in there from them.
Right.
2 months,
I know when I started, I didn't fully, I didn't understand anything, but I definitely didn't understand the idea of getting creative and why it makes sense. So, maybe Tim, maybe you can elaborate. Why does getting creative make sense specifically versus just cashing somebody out?
For me, the really short answer is because it's fun. That's me. I really, really enjoy the creative side of this business. But at the end of the day, I can create more profit for both the buyer, for myself, the buyer, and the seller,
Right.
by getting creative, right? There are ways that I can think of. If he is stuck on he wants to make 50 grand, I can get him his 50 grand. He may have to wait for it a little bit, but I can definitely make that happen if he's open to it. So by getting creative, I can literally provide exactly what the homeowner needs if I can figure out exactly what the homeowner needs.
Right.
Yeah, and that whole thing, Melina, I guess the way she approaches it is listen so hard that it hurts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That whole conversation about really listening. And I like to take it up another notch and say, well, you need to listen for what they're not saying,
Right.
right? Because sometimes what comes out is fantasy, right? And other times they're saying it without saying it, and you really need to kind of dive into exactly their words and understand what that real pain point is, right? Because he's saying, I can't afford to be in California anymore. Okay, that may be it, but, right, what is it really? Is it because there's family in Idaho? Is it because you'd rather be in Idaho for other reasons? And where in Idaho, right? Is it Idaho Falls? Where are you gonna be at? And what does that look like? And seeing as how Dave and Melina are in Idaho right now, right? Can we kind of look at things now while they're out there and see what's going on? So there's stuff there, right, that you really have to listen for. And a lot of times it's peeling back the onion, right? Because people, they're defensive and they hold back a little bit, so. How are we doing over there, Adam? You have any questions?
I do have some questions. Two from Anita. So Anita asks, if he stays in the house for 2 months, will he be considered a tenant?
If he stays in the house for 2 months, will they be considered tenants?
Depends.
I think I was gonna say, the short answer is it depends.
Yeah.
And it
Structure.
depends on the structure that we put in place for the deal itself. You know, if we buy
I
the
don't want
property.
a tenant.
Right, yeah, we definitely don't want tenants.
I don't want to structure it to they're a tenant.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Now they have tenant rights.
yeah, so and that's the perfect language is it depends on how it's structured. That'll dictate what their status really is. Because if it's a joint venture with them, then they're still part owners. They're still involved in the transaction. They wouldn't necessarily be tenants, but right, you have to be careful. It's a great question because there's some challenges that come with how things are structured, and if they do in fact end up as being tenants, to Frank's point, I don't want tenants because tenants can go sideways.
Right, well,
And we had that conversation because when Joe originally met with them, Joe had intimated that, you know, ideally for us, the best scenario is that, you know, when we move forward, they move out and hand the keys over. But he was asking about, well, how would it work potentially if they did need 30 days, 60 days to be able to solve things? And I said that we would look at that potential option, but it would be written into the contracts properly as to how that will work.
we sure to look at.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
You
Maybe
know,
do
to-
like a purchase, an option to purchase, where we give them some money now and close in 2 months and actually get that thing going that way, so they can have it.
There's agreements that can be put in place that are that you know, we just did that with Black Pearl, right? Where we put an agreement in place that stipulates the time frame that they can stay in the property. Based on that agreement, they have to move at a certain point, and we go that route to the Toluca property. Go ahead and
So with Toluca, we let them stay in the property for, they asked for 2 months, and we agreed to give them their 2 months. And in the structure of the deal, essentially what we agreed was that we're gonna partner with you on this transaction, we're gonna come in, put all the money, and we'll give you $5,000 to help you relocate. So they got $5,000 up front, but what we ended up doing was based on the contract, they went and found their place. They got, you know, a contract in place that said, we're gonna move into this place, here's what we need first and last months. We paid directly into the first and last months. Then they needed a U-Haul, we paid for the U-Haul. All of that got accounted for against their $5,000, and then once they vacated, they ended up with a check for like $900 or something. Like once
balance.
once they got out of the property, they got the balance of the $5,000, and that's how we did it. We also incentivize, like that's how we incentivize them. We're not gonna give them money and let them stay, but we were able to give them money. We also incentivize them that if they were able to get out in the in 30 days, we would take over the mortgage payment for the month that they were in the property. So the agreement was that you're gonna keep paying the mortgage, we're gonna catch up the mortgage, but you owe the mortgage payment for the next 2 months while you're in the property. But if you get out in 30 days, we'll pay it for even the 30 days that you were there. So we incentivized them as well to get out, and they ended up vacating the property in 30 days.
Of course,
because they
right?
wanted the extra money.
29 days.
It was pretty much 29 days.
It was really close to 29 days,
Yeah.
but they did that, and we were able to incentivize them to make that happen.
Right.
And then we got started on the property, on the rehab, 30 days sooner than we anticipated.
Very good.
Nice.
Very good.
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, a lot of ways to structure it so that and the biggest part for us was because we went into it just like Frank. I don't want tenants.
Right.
Yeah.
We absolutely don't want to deal with the tenancy issues that could come up and the challenges that come up with that. So we want to be able to just get this thing done. So we had to position it correctly for them. And I mean, at the end of it all, it was still a win-win,
Yeah.
right? They were just going to be cutting into profits if they did that for themselves. So,
Right.
because it was a joint venture, there was an agreement, and it was a equity split in that particular case. So,
Very good.
yeah.
Very good.
Adam, another question.
A follow-up question of Anita's. What's to get him to leave after 1 month? Will you have subject to sale contract in place?
Say that again?
What's to get him to leave after 1 month? Will you have a subject to sale contract in place?
Oh, so I'll reframe the question. So I think Anita's follow-up question is there another contract that would be drafted up and put in place once they agree to leave in 30 days? And I think that the short answer is no, that's already done up front.
Right.
The contracts are already drafted up, and all of that is detailed out in that contract up front.
Right.
So there isn't going to be an agreement and a joint venture that says we're going to draft up a new contract in 30 days. No way we would ever do that, because you're leaving the door open for them to say, hey, thanks for catching up my property. I'm good now, right? I don't need you guys.
Yep.
And so we would never do that. It's always going to be a one-time shot at getting the agreement correctly, drafting up the contract, putting it all in place, buttoned up, and everything has to be addressed out front.
Right.
Anything to add on that?
No, well, in specifically in Toluca, we didn't actually acquire the property from the original seller.
Because it was a joint venture.
It was a joint venture, so we partnered up. Now, there came a point when we did take ownership of the property, and we did that into a corporation, and we did that for liability reasons and things like that. But at the end of the day, they were on title the entire time they were in the property as owner. And we had a joint venture in place saying that we were going to do this work, and they had their agreements. So,
And just to be clear, the liability that you're referring to was really because we're going to be working on the house,
Right.
and there's things that are going to be going on. We wanted to take the liability off the homeowner,
Yeah.
right? And allow us to take the burden of the insurance, the liability, everything that goes with it.
Right.
So to protect them.
Yeah.
Because if not, right, if somebody that's working for us does something weird, they would end up being liable for it. We didn't want that. So
That makes sense.
right, if a contractor falls off the roof or something, they'll be suing the owner.
didn't that just happen on Shameless?
Is it?
Don't even say
I
that.
didn't see it.
Dude,
Yeah.
dude fell off the roof, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sue
Another
you.
question, Adam?
Yeah, Jeff asks, could the property be buy and hold while using the subject to offer, and then minimal repairs and get it rented?
So it is one of the conversations that Joe and I talked about, because it is also in Riverside County.
Real quick, can you reframe the question?
Oh,
so that,
okay.
yeah, repeat the question.
So the question was, could the property be taken over subject to the existing mortgage and then minimal repairs and kept as a rental property? So my answer is we talked about this a little bit. It's Riverside County. It could have potential for being a path of life property. It's a 4-bedroom house. Again, repairs are very, very minimal. It needs, if you turn this into a rental rather than putting it on the market, you could easily get away with very, very minimal repairs. Needs a new stove, needs a dishwasher, and probably 2 or 3 new toilets, and that would be sufficient. Aside from, I don't really know what the carpet looks like, because you can't really see it. But
It could be totally new under there.
I'm hazarding a guess that we probably need carpet.
There could be wood flooring under there.
But I don't know if it just needs a good clean, whether
Could
or not
be
we could get
covered
away
with
with
rat
that as a rental. So we definitely could do lesser repairs and potentially keep it as rental. Mortgage payment is around $1,100 to $1,200.
4 bedroom?
4 bedrooms.
that could be attractive.
and I know that, you know, the rental that we have in Hemet, the rent check we receive is around about $2,040.
Could be attractive.
That's a 4-bedroom as well, yeah, 4-bedroom
Could be
as well.
attractive. So there's options,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anything else, Adam?
Jeff has another question. What's the required docs taking to the table for a subject to transaction? And what should be the required docs when issuing a lease option type purchase?
A lease option.
So
and
what's the required docs to
software
take for a subject to
to.
transaction to the table? And then what should be the required docs when using a lease option type purchase?
So, first of all, we're not attorneys, so we'll just say that.
Well
But
done.
Good speak for me too. I am not an attorney as well.
No one here is an attorney.
right. So, subject to is going to be just a purchase contract. It's just going to have specific language in it that addresses what's going to happen with that mortgage at closing. The question about the lease option, you're going to need a lease and an option. It's literally that simple.
Like, how do you make a grilled cheese sandwich? The recipe's in the name.
So here's the thing, before you go on to the next question. The recipe's in the name. That was awesome. So, just to be clear, right? So the purchase contract is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
If you're going to use your own contracts, always have them drafted up by an attorney, reviewed by an attorney, and every contract's going to be specific to that transaction, so you need to make sure that you bring it and revisit that. Even if you've already paid $3-4 grand for a contract, the next time you use that contract, you probably want to take it back to an attorney, have them review it, and make sure that it's specific to the transaction you're going into. Same thing with lease options. Have an attorney draft them up. It's your best bet, and you're going to be in a good spot because you're taking the liability off of yourself and making sure that there's a license behind it that's going to stand up behind the contract that was drafted up. So with that, next question.
This not specific to the conversation we've just been having. However, Larry has asked Oscar, get in touch with me please regarding a duplex for sale by owner. Primary in foreclosure process and needs cash to bring primary back.
Okay,
There you go.
I'll be in touch with you, Larry.
and the address is. And then
Yeah.
Larry likes to make the statement that remember, dinner is a write-off.
Only half of it, though.
Fine, does that include drinks? And Anthony
Only half.
Johnson asks, do you guys JV in California? Do you guys joint venture in California?
Joint venture with the owner is, I'm guessing.
All right,
the
so
question.
I guess let's clear something up real quick, because that's a great question. That if there's folks out there that are outside of California, what we do is specific to Southern California. It doesn't mean that the strategies that we're sharing with you don't work in other states and other counties and other parts of California, you know, Idaho, Arizona, whatever. They do. It's just that we specialize here in Southern California, and that's where we joint venture. That's where our contracts are drafted up as well, is here in California. Go ahead.
Jeffrey Raffensberger, sorry Jeffrey, I don't know why I got that wrong. He's thrown in another one. Also, you'll need a purchase agreement with the lease option, he's just learned.
That's true, Jeff. You would need a purchase agreement with that lease option.
Right.
An interesting question, which I won't discount. Alfred Lou, how much does a lawyer charge for these contracts?
That varies.
That varies.
Yeah,
It depends.
It depends on who you contract with. So here's the thing, what you need to know is shop around and make sure that it's not just an attorney, but it's rather a real estate attorney. Their specialty is in real estate because they are actually in it on a regular basis, right? So make sure you contract out to them. Some of them may charge you a flat rate for their services. Some of them may be an hourly rate. It all depends. It varies by attorney. So here's what I will caution you with or advise you is that don't go cheap.
Right. I'll just throw this out there. I have done one specific deal. First of all, we like to do different. Every single creative deal is different. So almost every single contract is different, right? I have spent $2,500 on one contract, but we made $107,000 on that deal. So in order to make sure that I'm protected and make sure that the contract is worded correctly, I mean, again, don't hold back.
It's not worth it.
Like seriously, I've seen people lose deals or end up in court and lose lots of money because they wanted to save $1,000 on a contract.
All right.
And it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Don't trip over dollars to save dimes.
Right.
It doesn't work.
And then Anthony Johnson has also asked for contact info.
Oh,
Cool.
awesome.
So we'll reach out to him once we're done here. We'll reach out to you, Anthony, and be in touch and figure out what questions you might have that you need to go over. Awesome.
Is that it?
Anything else you want to add, John? Anything on that particular deal?
No, I mean, Adam's got another question coming up, but for me, just finally, I've seen so many creative deals going around in the last 6 months, more than I feel I've seen in the last 4.5 years of being here.
You're welcome.
You know, and you know, it's a great learning lesson for a lot of students that get involved in deals, because you know, you can sit in class and you can learn some different ideas, you know, a lease, subject to, all this stuff, but it really comes together when it becomes practical application.
Right.
You know, so you know, we've done buy and hold ones. We're in the middle of one right now with you guys on Black Pearl. Then we've got another one coming up now that we're going to look at later. You know, they just seem to be flying all over the place, and I think it's the sign of the kind of market that we're in the way of homeowners having that little bit of equity, you know, that gives them a little bit of playing options, as well as us to be able to come to the table with some playing options as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
create that win-win.
And here's the thing: is I think it's important for everybody to just keep in mind is that we are now completely in a market where you have to be able to create the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to stumble across it. It's not that simple, right? It's simple, but it's definitely not easy. But you have to be able to put on that creative thought process and create the opportunities more so now than ever. And just know that by associating with the right people, right, you have then the opportunity to do those things and learn along the way, and probably we'll just say your wallet will expand a little bit. Just a tad.
Adam.
Victoria Kane asks, so how are equity shares typically structured? Is there an average percentage range that homeowners get in this sort of acquisition?
Depends.
I used to hate that answer.
It's a great answer, though. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, it depends.
It does.
Slowly.
Yeah. So
There's no average.
So the question is there a formula? Is there an average that the profit splits are agreed to between homeowner and investor? And like Frank said, it depends. And here's really what it depends on. Everything is negotiable, and it really is going to depend on what the investor is willing to do and the homeowner is willing to accept.
Yeah,
Right.
I will say that we always want the homeowner to tell us what they need first before we start throwing out numbers ourselves. We always want to hear what they have to say and then see if we can back into those numbers and of course negotiate a little bit better position.
And I think another thing that's important for you guys out there listening to this, for us, it's very important that it's a win-win, but we always want the homeowner to win more.
Yeah.
Right? It leaves us in a position of we're just not willing to sacrifice what we do in our daily lives, right? Our business for an extra $5,000, an extra $10,000. It's just not worth it. I'd rather leave some money on the table for that homeowner to walk away feeling extremely good about the whole situation because we took care of them and saved them and put additional money in their pocket than me, right? So it's never going to be 70% for me, 30% for the homeowner. That's never going to happen. It's always going to be the opposite before it goes that route.
It's based on what the amount of equity that's in the property, the amount of repairs that's required, how much money are you putting into it to get back as the investor.
And those are all the variables that go into that negotiation factor.
Yeah, and anybody comes back and looks at our transaction, what we did and what the homeowner got, what you got, the value, we want to make sure that we're above reproach, that there's no doubt that we served them and didn't take advantage.
We just structured one where we're giving a good chunk of money up front, and then the back end is being split 50-50. Right? But here's the thing is that when it's all said and done, it really boils down to almost a 70-30 split because of the big chunk that's being paid up front.
Right.
So
70 to the
70 to the homeowner, yeah.
Yep.
So
I was going to say
it works out really well.
I was gonna literally bring up that same thing, because like I, for one, hate that answer, the it depends answer. So I wanted to kind of just give like some very specific. And Oscar and I, we literally just closed on one that was, we split 60-40.
60-40.
We split 60-40, the homeowner got 60. And then this one, we did one better, and we were able to structure it to where the homeowner gets a guaranteed amount, and then 50-50 beyond that.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So, whoop, we got another one.
Paul Mosquito's, Paul, if I pronounced your name incorrectly.
Beautiful,
I think
beautiful
I
job.
got Paul correct.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a statement or a question. Creative acquisition market.
It's a statement.
Sounds like a statement, but I think
Or is it a
I think he's
question?
asking, are we in a creative acquisition market currently? And I think the answer is
Always.
Always? Yeah.
always a creative market.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is from Margie Maselli. Hey Margie, can you have the Board of Advisors announce the upcoming Saturday class with Melina and to whom it is open before they end off?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this weekend we have the New Wealth Advisors Club Systems and Foundations class that's going to be held. Melina will be teaching. So those of you that are in partner curriculum, that's open to you. Those of you that are not part of the club or not in partner curriculum, unfortunately, that's not open to you. But here's the way I look at it is it may not be open to you, but it definitely should be something that you're striving for and being a part of, because the amount of information that's shared there is beyond ridiculous. And you learn, that's where we've developed our skill set from, is from attending those classes. So partner curriculum, guys, I think we're probably going to be wrapping up here. So another quick announcement with that partner curriculum. So the folks that are in our partner curriculum, you all need to free up your Thursday night and be ready to receive a text. For those of you that are your accounts are current, everything is good to go, you're going to receive a text from Frank, well, one of us, or maybe, we'll figure it out. But you're going to get a text on the coaching call that's going to be happening Thursday night.
Do you know what time that's happening yet?
It will be at 7 p.m. on Thursday, so grab your dinner, be in front of your computer. If you have not done so yet, download the Zoom app, and you need to go to zoom.us and get the app, get an account. It's free, so don't stress over it. Just get an account and be ready to tune in. I think the four of us will be on there, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure Melina will be there as well. And we're gonna share some things with you guys that are on that call. There's gonna be some expectations that are gonna be set, and then we're gonna walk you through a few things that are critical to who you are going to become in this business. And I think that's where we'll leave that piece of the conversation at. With that, any last comments, statements?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Good. All right. So for everybody that's a club member, Mastering the Mindset meeting tomorrow in Irvine. Good reminder for you.
Yeah.
And class on Saturday. Coaching call for the partner curriculum on Thursday. Tune in again next week. We're going to be going over some other things, and maybe some creative stuff, and maybe something totally different. But we'll obviously keep it fresh and keep it going. And with that, thanks guys for being here and making this happen. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Arrivederci.